need to do in order to avoid getting stiff when playing the piano. Now, why would you get stiff in the first place? If you're having this sort of trouble, like I used to, it is likely that you are trying to use more force than you need to. Remember the golden rule in every art, every sport, and everything in life. Try to achieve optimum results with minimum effort. As far as the piano goes, notice that the keyboard is laid out on a flat horizontal surface and the keys work downwards. This means you don't necessarily have to push down into the keys because everything on earth falls down because of the force of gravity. So why not make use of this force to our advantage and fall down into the keys instead of pushing down into them? Now, how much do you suppose the weight of an arm could do? I am a pretty average weight guy with an average arm. That seems to weigh about 4 kilos. And here's a cat that weighs 4 kilos. And you can see how much 4 kilos could sound like if you drop it into the keys. Pretty disturbing, huh? So, this is the first thing to take into account. And there's much more to it, but if you want to get into it, here's a little exercise you could do. Start by dropping your hand to your knee. It's useful at first if you get somebody to help you. So get your friend to grab your arm, raise it to about shoulder height. Make sure you keep your arm completely loose. It's supposed to be dead meat, no control. Let your friend drop it at their own time. Once this is successful, if you can manage not holding on to it, then do it yourself. Raise it to about shoulder height and then instantly drop it. If you do this right, it ought to hurt a little bit on your knee. Next step, close the lid and drop onto the lid of the piano. If you're doing it loosely, it shouldn't stay on there, it should fall off. If you could lean a little bit forward, you could make it stop. And the next step, open the lid and fall onto the keys. Again, if you want your hand not to fall off, you should lean a little bit forward when dropping. And the next step, fall with your keys. Now, a moment ago, I was falling in there with my wrist, with the palm. But now, I'm going to fall onto the keys with my fingertips, and I'm going to catch some keys. I don't care which keys I catch. I just want to make sure my fingertips are holding onto the keyboard. Try this. What is happening actually, if I may show in slow motion, as I drop the weight, my fingers become like hooks. They hold on to the key beds. The wrist has a suspension job, so as I fall down, the wrist gives in a little bit. One thing you got to make sure is that the knuckles are the topmost point in the hand. This is the natural position of the hand, where you can be comfortable. So, drop down, give in a little bit with the waist, with the wrist, and make sure your arm is dangling. If you fall really free, you will notice that your arm dangles a little bit. could get your friend to check by pushing your arm a little bit to the side. And then you could do it yourself. Next step, fall down with one finger. It's okay if you miss the key, if you play two keys, but it's important that you're falling completely freely. See if your arm is dangling. Check your wrist slightly up and down. And one other way to check to make sure that the whole weight of the arm is resting at the key bed is get your friend to try and lift the key. They should be using enough energy to lift 4 kilos. It shouldn't be easy to lift this key. You shouldn't be forcing it down. You shouldn't be fighting against it, but you should be totally resting in it. Next step, try this with each of your 5 fingers, one at a time. Try it with both hands, one at a time. And here's an interesting trick. Of course, you could fall from this shoulder height, but if you keep your upper arm at shoulder height and let the forearm dangle down, now your fingertip is closer to the key, but because this part is raised, as you fall, you're still going to get a lot of sound because this whole weight is still dropping down to the bottom of the key. So work on this for a while, and I will show you a little bit more in the next video. In the meantime, please remember that playing the piano is not only an art, it is an act involving the use of muscles, tendons, bones, and nerves, which, if used wrongly, could cause injury. So I'm glad if these videos are helpful, but please don't try to learn this solely from videos. Make sure you get help. Make sure you find yourself a teacher who is knowledgeable about these matters.